principles behind the establishment of the League of Nations, which is today the United Nations, was the aspect of the need to deal with transnational terrorism as an aspect of a collective security agenda. Today, these transnational terror groups have become more sophisticated, and that is why their acts of violence tend to be transnational in nature. For example, you have the Boko Haram that is established and founded in Nigeria, but their acts of violence cut across the globe. You have groups like al-Qaeda, founded in Afghanistan, but their acts of violence and really, orchestrating all these illegal actions really cut across, and much more. Well, the African mission in Somalia, established a couple of years ago to deal with the al-Shabab terror group there, has ever since, registered progress therein. But you know that Uganda sent its forces there in 2007, and so many years down the road, we have registered progress and managed to restore normalcy until a few days ago when the country was shocked by, one of our military bases being run by the al-Qaeda. And if you read the president's comments, he said this was a mere, military glitch, and, there's no need to panic, and everything is in control. Well, lives have been lost of our patriots, and today we convene to discuss the issue around the UPDF in Somalia, but also the UPDF in other African countries. And to put all this into perspective, dear viewers, is a panel of immaculate young people that is now my honor to introduce to you, and in no particular order. From the National Youth Council of Uganda is its Secretary for Publicity and also Chairperson of the Youth Council of Moroto. Commissioner Gadepito, thank you for sparing the time.
Thank you so much. Yeah, just like he has said, I'm Epito Gadi, the Publicity Secretary of National Youth Council, and also the District Youth Chairperson. Of course, I also double as the former Deputy Resident District Commissioner of Kabong District. I want to thank you for inviting me to this panel of discussion, and I believe we shall have a very fruitful discussion. Thank you.
We are very happy to have you, Commissioner. Next to the Commissioner is a member of the Now Generation and a student of law at Makerere University, none other than Lawel Muhezi, a very common face on this show. Lawel, karibu.
Thank you so much. Once again, my name is Muhezi Joshua Lawel. I am a student at Makerere, as has been introduced. I also work with Zungumze Africa, which centers a discussion around Africa's future at the core. I'm glad to be part of today's discussion.
Wow, very established portfolio right there. Thank you, Lawel. The gentleman in the middle is Ivan Agaba. Ivan is a stalwart of Renewed Uganda.
Thank you very
Ivan,
much.
what is that? Welcome.
Thank you very much, Comrade Moses. Like he has alluded to, I'm a Renewed Uganda stalwart, which is loosely translated into Chisoboka. We are people genuine Tumukunde. We had our success postponed till further notice, but I'm very glad to be here. I'm a private businessman, very passionate about circles and investment clubs. Yeah, and for very ideological reasons. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next to myself is Philip Katakenga. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Philip is a lawyer. Of course, he has finished his LLB, waiting to join the Law Development Center. He has interest in areas around human rights and, of course, many others. Philip, thank you for making the time.
Thank you so much. My name is Philip Katakenga. It's a great opportunity to be part of this club to discuss matters of public importance. Just like you said, I've just finished my LLB, but I'm a leader. I'm the Secretary General for Uganda Law Students Association. My brother, which the organization that is led by Percy, and I'm a director of a non-government organization that is our Can Hope Youth Initiative. It is a very beautiful topic to discuss about, and it's really a great opportunity.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Commissioner, let me just begin with you. And just to paint for us a picture, what do you know about what our forces, the UPDF, that we are proud of, that everywhere they go carrying the Ugandan flag? What do you know about their presence in Somalia?
Okay, thank you. You know, the Horn of Africa has been suffering with a lot of civil conflicts, and I can point out to Somalia. So when the war in Somalia came in, the al-Shabab, you realize that they're affecting almost the whole of East Africa. Look at Kenya, the al-Shabaab were coming in. You look at Uganda, the bombing in Chadondo. You see a lot of things that have been happening. So the UN Security Council gave opportunity to the African Union Security Council to create the African Union Mission to Somalia before it was changed to the African Transition Mission to Somalia in 2022. And of course, most of the countries that came in to participate by sending their troops was Uganda. Uganda was the first in 2007, and up to now it has the highest number of troops in Somalia. Their main mission was to go and bring stability, prosperity, peace in the region. Their work was not to go there for war. It was just to bring the peace, the stability, so that people can benefit from the peace in terms of, let me say, livelihood improvement, the trade, to boost up the trade. So the UPDF, taking the UPDF there was just to bring the peace into the Horn of Africa by stabilizing Somalia and taking away the al-Shabab from, putting their base in Somalia, by bringing down the warlords. The northern part of Somalia was full of warlords. The border, the coast, it was only full of warlords. And that's why that base was created at Bulomarel, where we had the force put there. So that place was developed as a front operational base. But then, of course, there are a lot of ups and downs. There were successes registered. When Guti was there were successes registered. You see, when Lokech was there, he managed to push away the al-Shabaab. And of course, things came back to normal. And the UPDF was caught and aware this time around that this incident happened. And it's really so sad that it happened to UPDF. But of course, when you look at the African peace and security, it was the artisan. One thing they were saying is that the forward operational base should not be guarded by only one company. There should have been UPDF plus any other country, Kenya, Burundi, Rwanda, where any country that is there, or even the very soldiers of Somalia, they should be guarded there. So, but to my surprise, it was only the UPDF that were there guarding the place, and there were few. Yet, in actual sense, if you look through the agreements, it was supposed to be around 500 soldiers in the barracks and good weapons. So, I think I will be discussing more as time.
Wow, but I think you're giving us amazing context right there. And, if you look at the Horn of Africa map, is that Ethiopia is bordering Kenya, then Kenya borders Uganda as you transcend towards Democratic Republic of Congo. And indeed, the peace in Somalia becomes very important for the stability of the region. And I think I agree with you on that. Ivan, what do you know about this? I mean, the UPDF seems to be, I don't say busybody, but we are everywhere. And, and the idea of us having a Pan-African force, is it costing us?
Sure. Thank you very much,
But also what you know about this generally.
Now, I think I'm not a lawyer, but I think in law, it's always good to begin with the facts, the issues, and then the opinion. And I think it's best we start with the facts. Now, what is the UPDF you see today? UPDF is the military arm of a movement whose history can be dated from as far back as the 60s. This was FRONASA, turned PRA, turned NRA, now UPDF. So, do not look at UPDF as is now. Try to look back and look at why the military arm of the movement, the national resistance movement, was started. Now, you see, when we talk about terrorists, still on the facts, it's good to know who they are. So we know this is al-Shabab, which in English is loosely translated into the youth. So it's a they call themselves the youth. Now, two, it's also good to know what motivates them. So what are their aims? What are their ends in mind? You see, these are people that hinge all their activities on two things. One is a Somali nationalist sort of sentiment, that they want a united Somalia. But two is they intertwine the nationalist sentiment with the jihadist principles. You see, now that's where it becomes a can of worms. And that's where it becomes a Pandora's box. Having a nationalist sentiment is fine. Where I disagree with them is the jihadist principle. Now, of recent, I think I was watching a documentary on France 24 about the al-Shabab, now that this attack was meted on the Ugandan UPDF forces. And these people simply tell you that democracy is a religion of non-Muslims, and therefore must be dealt with. Two, among the principles they follow, democracy is a religion of non-Muslims. And according to the jihadist sort of sentiment, is anything non-Muslim must be dealt with. So this informs what they do. Two, and most importantly, is they believe that wherever a Muslim is, even in Uganda, even in Kenya, even in Tanzania, is territory of Islam, and therefore must be reclaimed. So if you have a cocktail of what these people call nationalism and what we all know as jihadism, then that is anarchy. It is anarchy in the brewing. So I listen to people, and usually, people are entitled to their opinion, but if you let these people do whatever they are doing unperturbed, unimpeded, this could possibly lead to mayhem in this Great Lakes region. This is a region that for the past very many good years has kept stable, regardless of our turbulent neighborhood. You have Mozambique, the south, you have DR Congo to the west,
Central African
Sudan,
Republic.
Central African Republic. So you see that we exist in a turbulent neighborhood, but for some reason we have kept peaceful amid all that. So it is very important for us not to leave out that aspect. Now, as I almost reach the conclusion of the facts is, you see, these I call them anarchists. Almost took over Mozambique. They had built cells in Mozambique, and it took for SADC forces and Rwandan troops to liberate Mozambique. Otherwise, they had taken it off. These al-Shabab group. You remember the Westgate attack in Kenya in 2013? They claimed responsibility over that attack. my colleague Ndugu here has talked about the twin bombings that we had here in Uganda during the 2010 World Cup finals. So this is a Mujahideen group. These are Mujahidinis, just like the Afghanistan Taliban, just like the Islamic State in Syria, the ISIS. They keep nebulous. They keep amorphous. You know, in the theatrics of war, whenever you keep amorphous, your enemy has no target to hit. So it's the reason as to why they've kept around for a long period of time. But lastly, among the facts is, who funds them? When we know who they are, we know what motivates them. Lastly is, who funds them? I think you heard of a company called Lafarge Group. Lafarge was implicated in doing money laundering, terrorism financing in the Sahel. So to look at the Sahel belt, who do you think finances anarchists to wreak havoc in the Sahel belt? By Sahel, I mean the dry strip, the dry desert strip below the Sahara that has countries like Mauritania, to Mali, to Burkina Faso, to Niger, to Chad, to Nigeria. When you look at the denominator in all those countries, is anarchy. Again, anarchy informed by nationalist sentiment, but hinged on jihadist principles. So when we get to know who they are, what motivates them, and who funds them, I think a tripartite of those three questions, it gives us a clear picture on why, regardless of the losses and the successes that UPDF has scored, it ought to keep in Somalia. Yeah.
It ought to remain in Somalia.
Yes.
Okay, as I move to Lawel, just remind us of your quote about democracy again.
What I said was
just the quote only.
Yes, according to these jihadists, to them democracy is a religion of non-Muslims.
Non-Muslims, thank you. Ndugu Lawel, as we attempt to understand what exactly is happening in Somalia, is that different security experts have over time questioned, for example, how different states approach the issue of terrorism. And that is why President Bush was criticized for his famous war on terror. And when Barack Obama came to office, he said, no, we can't deal with terror as if we are dealing with an open war convention. It is more sophisticated. It has, with the hope of technology, it has become more sophisticated. Like he said, they are more fast and are much more difficult to even deal with. So is the issue of terrorism, are we losing grip on how to deal with terrorism, but also your general facts and thinking about what's happening in Somalia?
I think there is always some level of mischaracterization of what actually happens. And so, for example, the US's role in Afghanistan could even be Uganda, or AMISOM's role in Somalia. I think military action against terrorism is a very important thing to do, because you have a terrorist infrastructure that is existent, and therefore you require military action for it to be able to destroy or deconstruct it, right? I think where the discussion is how do you entirely deal with terrorism? Because terrorism, again, is an ideological war of sorts, because military action does not eliminate the ideology bit of it. So I think it is important at first level to do the physical deconstruction. And I think that the US is, because you need to understand how the US gets to launch these attacks. I think it was a background of the Twin Tower bombings and all that, and they need to demolish that. And I think at that level they actually achieved. What they didn't achieve was thoroughly, I think, dealing with the Taliban, which for me can't be achieved because Taliban is an existential ideology. And I think that the best way to deal with it is, I think generally now to talk about Somalia and terrorism in general, is to have deliberate ideological counter strategy on how do you construct it, I think at ideological level. But the most complex bit of it is that no non-state entity has capacity to sustain itself. What that means is that every non-state entity that is sustaining itself is having support from a particular state or a particular strong multinational company entity. If you've read the Economic Hitman on how, for example, states use those big multinational companies to advance national interest. And so I think most of us want to deal with the people fighting in the field. I think none of us really is understanding the source of their power. There is a very big contestation on, for example, the origin of ISIL, and these are complicated issues to talk about, but one will tell you that there's suspicion that it was funded to deal with the current establishment in Syria after, I think, the Civic approach failed. So it is much more complex. But for me, there's always a silver lining in everything. I like the patriotism that comes with serving in the army. And I understand what my brother here and him are saying about the need for us to deal with an existential threat to the region. But I'm not comfortable with the fact that this is supposed to be our military, and we are supposed to, before even going to Somalia, this is supposed to be subject to public discussion and debate. The problem, and why most people can't relate with this, even at normal society level, conversations on Kampala streets, is because this is like Museveni's issue. Like, it's his military, he decides what he does with it. I'm not saying it is wrong for him to be in Somalia. I don't like the fact that it is his issue to discuss and decide, and we never have a say on where our military goes, on our foreign policy approach, on everything. And Kidega, you know for sure, this must be the first time, or maybe the second time, you're deliberately discussing our presence in Somalia. So unless an event happens, we never get the opportunity to discuss this. Unless ADF strikes on Parliamentary Avenue, unless there is Operation Shuja in Congo, it is rare that we decide ab initio before these actions are taken, that this is what is best for our country. And sometimes you look at the normal discussions in WhatsApp groups, public forums, people, sort of okay with whatever happened this week. And you don't want to blame them because they don't understand these things. They don't even know why their sons and brothers are in Somalia. And so for us, maybe the elite want to say, these are people, these are patriots, these are serving the nation, there's an existential threat. But I think this is supposed to be a national discussion. We are supposed to discuss our military approach across the region. But should we be in Somalia? I think yes. We also need to have a discussion on whether Uganda should be the leading actor in all these military ventures. Are we the most patriotic? Aren't we sacrificing a lot more? Are we the only ones at threat? Or are we just this big dog syndrome that even if the rest don't come, first we can self-sustain ourselves there? There's also an important discussion on the issue of welfare. This could even just be you want to keep you can't pay well your army, and there's a new opportunity of a military venture which gives them better facilitation. It could be that what is presented is a genuine concern, but the motivation here is much more about welfare, and maybe the military science bit of wanting to keep your military active in case there is any threat. Then you don't have a lax army which has not been to war for quite some time. But all these things are not discussed, and for me, that's my major concern. Sometimes with this government, I think sometimes I ask for too much. But yeah, that's my view.
Thank you. And Philip, I have to bring you in because Lowell, of course, being a law student, raises procedural issues. The process through which our national forces should be deployed should be a matter of procedure. All right. But I also know that I have only failed to get the exact law, but I know that the president has the prerogative to at times take immediate actions under emergencies and then report. I think, I don't know, under the principle of what pursuit, I am not so sure, but the law allows him a window to deploy. So I don't know, are we discussing military through a constitutional lens or through a legal perspective? But also, where is the gray area exactly?
Well, thank you. What we have to know about the UPDF, like my brother here said, it is a military force. When we talk about the constitutionality of it, it is a creature of the Constitution and probably a creature of the statute. When we come to Article 208, that is 208, it provides for the UPDF, and its functions in 209, and as well where Parliament has to form any body and to send off the UPDF to outside countries. That is in 210, probably paragraph D. So the UPDF is a creature of a statute, and it is constitutionally, represented. So its move to Somalia, Sudan, Congo, and whatsoever should be a constitutional or a law or a legal question. What people have known that this government may be seem to be green about is that people know that the UPDF is a replica of the NRA of the 1980s and 1986, and so everything they had and the recruitment and so on are all governed by the principles laid down in those years. Well, though we have an act of the UPDF of 2005, we say it wasn't made in consultation or in proper manner, because even when we look at the criteria or the principles that must be followed when we are recruiting and probably promoting the soldiers, it is not followed. Okay, and that blame should be made, put to the masters or the commanders, and in that I mean the commander-in-chief who leads the UPDF, that is General Museveni, plus the Minister for Security and the other commanders down him. So the question of whether the UPDF should be in Somalia or not, I say it should be as an African state, as a brother state. Yes, we should be there on only one account, that we go there to keep peace or promote peace. The question is to what level, to what extent, and for how long? We've been there for over 10 years, past or 15 years.
15 years.
15 years, 16 years down the road, we are keeping peace in Somalia. Is it true? Really? Even when we are keeping peace, does it call for that long? If I may ask you, you come in my home, you've had an alarm, okay? And you've come maybe to bring about peace. But then we fail, okay? It's like having violence is our food, okay? Do you have to keep there? And the question maybe we should have in our minds is that if we have gone there to keep peace, and then we have become culprits, we are losing life for our children, do we still have to remain there? That is the question. Well, I don't say that we don't deserve or wish or to help our African states, because a conflict or a disability, disability in a fellow African country is a disability in all. In other words, after al-Shabab destabilizing Somalia, it will come to Kenya and through Uganda still. So we have to, but to what extent and how long? As Christians, we do believe in forgiveness, working for good, and so on. But even when Jesus was on earth, his mission was to a given time. And then he went and said, I will send you the Holy Spirit.
Isn't that time defined by the presence of the threat? That for as long as the threat still exists, then I think the time is constrained to that particular aspect.
We've had countries like Kenya. We had the Kikuyu, the Kikuyu versus the Maasai. We had, in Rwanda, we had the Hutu versus, fighting the Tutsi in 1994. Here in 1980, we had the NRA fighting the Obote, right? We didn't have any intervention from different governments. And what happened? These are wars that were experienced for just a limited period of time, 1980 to 1986, and it ceased.
Yes.
And here we
Let's
are.
respond to that shortly.
Yes, like.
The only reason those wars become short is because one is able to overrun the other. And therefore, they end the war in victory, something like that, which is the same with RPF, with NRA here. The question then is, if you want then the al-Shabab to, because if you could leave them, probably the war will end very soon, but al-Shabab, you can be guaranteed that the Somali entity without external support will be overrun by al-Shabab. In Afghanistan, just the US stepping out immediately, Taliban. I think, but also, I think to give context to this discussion and even the naming currently, that there is a transition. There has been I think it is capacitating the Somali soldiers as we get out, but it's a transitory period. So I think we're in the process of getting out. Unfortunately, you have yourself being caught unaware, and you have these casualties. But before the attack, we were in a process
Because I think
of
they had an election. They had an election
to
and
get out.
president
Yes,
was
yes.
elected.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Fair, yeah, good enough context. Yes,
Yeah,
Philip,
well,
as you wrap it up.
You know, this ambush of the UPDF is a caution to the African Union, and it is a humiliation to the UPDF commanders. I even had read one of the comments of the commander-in-chief, that is Museveni, when he said that he doubts the professionalism of the troops in Somalia. Really? Was that a healthy comment to make if he's the commander-in-chief? Well, as though that said, we still say we love peace and we are country of peace. Actually, we've been proud for that. We've been crowned for having for being a peace-loving country. Okay, but then, truth be said, or shouldn't be forgotten, that even when we go to keep peace, we go armed. Okay, that even when we come back with titles. I heard of a lion of Mogadishu. Do you think he was a lion after praying so much? No.
But isn't peace as a result of war? I mean, peace is a result of war.
I think it's that famous old quote that to build a new, break down the existing entirely. That's how you impose a new political order. You break down the existing entirely and then build a new.
Yeah, truly. Yeah. Well, and then as we summarize this, well, we have to break something and then we build something new. The question is, are we breaking it? But also it is now costing it. I mean, it is now costing us. Yeah. My question is that should it cost on Uganda? And why is it that Uganda UPDF is the dominant force? Okay. By the way, we are winning crowns. We are crowned for being there for so long and being the dominant. Okay. But on the lives of our children and probably the taxpayers' money. You had recently the how do you call it? Where we had a budget of over 100 billion. Okay, it is going there, taxpayers' money. Even when Uganda is not stabilized, we go in to keep peace outside there. I don't say it is not necessary, and I call for it, but to what extent and how long? If it has failed, if I was the commander right now, for the life we've lost, I would say, let us either come back home or retreat, because it's now becoming our war.
Fair enough. Yeah.
Really?
Gadi, I want to come to you and I want to pick it up from where he has stopped. He says that it is not becoming our war. But if you look at the nature of the UPDF, if you recall, the military wing of ANC, at the time when they were fighting the apartheid in South Africa, they were hosted and trained here in Uganda. You remember? Mozambique liberation leaders under Samora Machel were hosted both in Tanzania and in Uganda and trained by coexisting forces. So it appears that our history towards having a Pan-African view, towards supporting Pan-African liberation movement is not a new thing. But he asks a question that, is it overly costing us? But also, if we are to put on a scale and choose between taking the Pan-African route vis-a-vis taking the modest route that is not costly, I think, which way to go for us?
Okay, thank you. One thing you should know is that UPDF is one of the most powerful forces in Africa. It's one of the strongest in Africa. It's one of the strongest. And every
strong in terms
country
of what?
will want to benchmark on it. It's so good in guerrilla warfare.
Yeah, that's true.
Uganda has been really ranked. Guerrilla warfare, they're good.
Yeah, true.
So every country would want to benchmark into how do they achieve this? How do they do this? Just like you've seen, let me go away from the UPDF. See the SFC, they get their knowledge from Russia. You benchmark in some place that is so powerful than you to get the knowledge so that you can be stronger. So UPDF is so strong, they are good. That's why they are really called upon to spearhead most of these things. Uganda took lead in sending their troops there in March 2007.
Yeah.
That is the time Uganda took their troops there. Uganda took lead. Up to date, they have the highest number of forces in Somalia. Why? Because when you are strong, when they judge you are strong, they will invite you to come and help. Why? To bring peace in the region. But then, after bringing that peace, how do you sustain it? You don't have to pull out immediately. You don't have to pull out as soon as possible. Because there were still threats of al-Shabab. There was need to guard the coastline. But then this attack comes at a point when everyone was, a soldier is not supposed to sleep in a job. You can say they were relaxed that everything is normal. And always, even the Bible, the devil always comes to attack you morning times. That's when you have bad dreams, right?
Yeah.
So even these people used the strategy of coming in the morning when you feel the night is peaceful. So, and that's the time most of the security retreat. They now come, because at 5 it's coming to daytime.
Sure.
I know in some countries 5 already is daytime, actually, it's clearly seen. So people start retreating back now to, to start organizing, to go back now and relax.
I go for morning.
And immediately that you're retreating like this, then something else comes up. But then there are 3 questions that need to be answered in this attack. One is, should we question our commanders? 2, how was the intelligence? Should we question the intelligence that we have? Then 3, were our UPDF outnumbered or, they were outgunned in this whole mess? Because having a force of 250 soldiers in a barracks and, another party comes and just overtakes the barracks in not even a long period of time, in a very short period of time, you should put questions in a lot of things. Because UPDF has a lot of intelligence systems to get the information of, and now rumors are coming in that the ATMIS, the AU transition, got the information prior to that, prior to the attack. Should we say it was planned? No, we cannot say that because we have not yet got any information. So there was laxity, and the al-Shabaab got a window into that. They got a window into, attacking the most powerful UPDF. But of course, this gives us, this gives us also a lesson to learn that our commanders, do they need refresher trainings to go and start doing this work? Do they need refresher trainings? Because they are supposed to be alert every now and then to do this work. So for UPDF being in Somalia, it's a good thing for peace, but we should also, I really concur with the president by saying that did we send people who are not of good quality to Somalia? Did we send people who are not of good quality to Somalia? And he calls it criminal. That means people who sent these ones who are not so much should be questioned. Should really be questioned. I can attest. There is I was reading through the news. I was in Kabong. One of the commanders who was the other side was taken to that very base, and I don't know whether he's alive up to now. Yeah? But truly, and I will say it out, he had a medical issue, which even laid him off work for 1 month. So why do you take him there? Was he okay? So we should really also know, do we just take our soldiers there to die, or because there is another gain that they gain when they go out? Is there some motivation of wealth?
Yeah, of course, they're
Is
paid
there some
wholesomely.
motivation of wealth that takes them there, then they forget their duties?
They are paid wholesomely.
Yeah.
That's a fact.
I need to make a brief rejoinder. You see, in the theater of war, I think truth is the first casualty. So the numbers might not be right. Whether it was a premeditated sort of attack on either side, because there are mercenaries, they are in fortune hunting here and there, you may never know. But the point is, terrorism. The West and its allies have waged war against terrorism. But they know that terror and whatever surrounds it is not a picnic. It's not a walk in the park. It never takes a short period of time. It usually takes a long period of time. So if they could have proxies that benefit off the card, proxies that are facilitated, proxies that are taken for training and are equipped to fight the wars on their behalf, to fight the war against terror on their behalf. That plays in their court. So it is very important for us, at least, to note that truth in the theater of war is never truth. Now, I think I had somebody talk about the duration of the war. You see, nationalist wars usually never end. Look, in the 1980s, the Russian Soviet Red Army was on one side, and then you had the Mujahidinis on the other. The Mujahidinis being trained by the US to wage war against the Russians. The Russians were beaten. You know, Afghanistan, even historically, has been always referred to as the graveyard of empires. Alexander the Great conquered. Wherever he conquered, he reached Afghanistan, was beaten. The Soviet Red Army was ejected out of Afghanistan. US enters Afghanistan in 2001, and 20 years later, it's also sent packing bags. And now the Taliban have taken over power, and are the people that they imposed the political order they fought for. Why? Because nationalist wars never end. And the Afghanistans usually used to talk about the Taliban. They always told the US that, you see, you have the clocks, we have the time. So keep the clocks, for us we have time. We can even fight for 20, for 40, for 50 years. You get it? Yeah. And so was the case even in Vietnam, the Vietnam War. You see, the US had sunk a lot of money. It is believed that during that period, the Vietnam War, the US lost almost a generation of young men being sent to war to fight. Now, but by the time, you know, JFK was assassinated midway his second term. And so his vice, Lyndon Johnson, had to take on till 1968. But by 1968, the US populace was tired of the war. They staged riots that the US government, please pack bags and get out of Vietnam. Now, what seemed to be the last stroke that broke the camel's back was when a certain Vietnamese general was invited for a conference, and he explained something called the asymmetrical aspect. You know, in the asymmetrical aspect of war, successes are not gauged alike. That if for each US soldier I kill, 10 Vietnamese soldiers are killed, To me, the Vietnamese, that is success. To you, the US, it is equally a huge loss. So it's what is called the asymmetrical aspect. Successes and losses in war are never gauged alike. So the US had to pack. It's the same case with Russia-Ukraine. That's why Russia was very careful not to call it a war. They called it a military operation with aims and objectives that are time-bound. Because they know when you attack and don a hell force over a populace that is determined to protect their territorial sovereignty, you never beat them. They can even fight for 100 years and still beat you. Thank you very much.
Wow. So fantastic. Yes, Commissioner.
I think let me finalize from what. So I was still mentioning about what motivates most of these soldiers. And of course, I know most of them go there out of connections. Like one time I mentioned it here. I know you want to bring something up, but one time I mentioned it here that some people even go there, they go and, meet most of these, generals and, wanting to go there. And it's because of connections. Some of them go there to just benefit, to get more money, because of wealth. So, but that should change. We should go there for the motive that we are destined to go and do. We managed to fight, we brought back peace. Then what next? The next thing they were supposed to do was to start now training those very soldiers of, recruiting more soldiers in Somalia so that they can get the skill that they have. And after they have become stable, then the UPDF can now go away. So, but right now what they're supposed to do, and when you get peace, your fight now should be intelligence-based. Not again, it should be intelligence-based. Every now and then you should be getting intelligence. Because when there is peace, there is silence. And in that silence, what is being cooked there? What is happening? Is there another warlord who has developed? Is there someone who has developed? What is happening in the community? Are they recruiting more people? So, the UPDF really should now take their way into intelligence-based and start pinpointing the locations of all the al-Shabab, trying to know the funders, trying to know their motive, trying to know their next target, trying to know their movements. That is one thing. And I love the US. The US, when there was a documentary I was watching when Trump was going, is it to Afghanistan? The intelligence that was there, if you watch it, the intelligence that was there, even a person who just posted a Facebook picture of a threat was good. So we should really go deep and do our intelligence more and more and never relax when you are in a war ground. Because when you're there, let me tell you, al-Shabab, if he sees a soldier with a gun, that is death or life. He will not. Because for them, they don't feel bad dying. Actually, their joy is in death, actually. So when they get a gun, it is to shoot you to kill you. So you should be up on the game.
Either you kill them first or they kill you.
Kill them first,
We are due for a short commercial break. I'll begin with you after the break. But to the viewers, this is the Youth Roundtable, and we hope that you are having a fantastic afternoon. Well, just don't move a muscle. See you after this.
Digital rights are those human rights and legal rights that allow individuals to access, use, create, and publish digital media or to access and use computers, other electronic devices, and telecommunication networks. Digital rights include a right to freedom of expression, information and communication through technology, a right to privacy and data protection, a right to credit for personal works, a right to universal and equal digital access, a right to identity, a right to anonymity, a right to be forgotten, and a right for protection of minors, among others. The state's digital rights are frequently violated through various unfair actions, for example, blockage of websites and social networks, theft of credentials, unauthorized use of people's data for personal gain, privacy intrusion, online censorship, arrests and intimidation of online users, internet blockages, and the proliferation of laws and regulations that undermine the potential of technology to drive social, economic, and political development worldwide. It is hence every citizen's responsibility to respect rights of other digital users and to speak out or report to the responsible parties when one's rights are violated.
We'll be back from that short commercial break. Lowell, just as we move towards just wrapping up this UPDF question, is that words like laxity have been mentioned on this show. So the question is that, is the UPDF perhaps overstretched? We are in DRC Congo with Operation Shuja. We are fighting insurgents in Karamoja with Usalama kwa wote. You know, we are in Sudan. We are everywhere. Do you think we are a bit overstretched, and that is why laxity and perhaps maybe negligence is at some point bound to happen?
Look, I may not agree with President Museveni and the entire establishment and how he characterized it in terms of being, a historical force. But I understand them. I understand that because military strength is an important tool, especially in foreign and international relations generally. And so maybe their niche is in military, and you have to understand how they come to be, and maybe they identified that as their niche, and that's what they have, invested their time and resources in, and that's where their strength is, as he has said. I don't think that the logic is that if you're fighting very many wars, essentially you're drained. It depends on how much capacity you have. It's possible that they even have the personnel, the resource because you can departmentalize it, and everyone is handling a particular war. I don't think that is where the problem is. I think the problem, as I've gotten more understanding, is that specifically with Somalia, because I think with Lokesh and after sort of having a successful run, it has been sort of less risky to be in Somalia, and the threat has not been as imminent as it was. So I think somehow then it has become an issue of people who want better salary and they're not getting enough here want to go there. And maybe there are serious discussions about the fact that even being in Somalia is a privilege. People want to go there. And when you read the communication of the president, commander-in-chief, talks about how it should not be about welfare, it should be about, I think, military action and all that. And so I think it speaks to what has happened. And I think that now that laxity then has implications. And I think then we are paying for that. Maybe just one thing I wanted to comment about. I am very uncomfortable with, I don't know if it's junior lawyers, but there is this habit, especially by young lawyers, to want to examine everything in the legal sense. And that's why when I talked about the fact that we don't have this public discussion, for me it is not a legal issue. Even if the president had the powers per constitution, even if it's constitutional right, I think my whole essence is, can we have this discussion as a nation, whether it is on merits or demerits, whether it is good to be in Somalia or not? Can we have this discussion? Because it's only then that we can feel that this is our army. When we lose as a country. When we gain, we celebrate as a country. And I think you guys, the NRM youth, you've been fed on this indoctrination of Pan-Africanism, nationalism. And I think that is better if we feel we are part of these patriotic engagements. And so, we all have now diagnosed the issue that this is the NRA, how it came to be and how this is their niche and all that. But I think for them to get more buy-in and support from the population and have better accountability mechanisms, I think we should have bigger debate. It can be legally right. You can go through parliament, snitch it there, it is approved. You're right legally, but I think that does not fulfill the entire essence of having a national army. And for me, that is where my problem is. Yeah.
Fantastic, fair enough. And I agree with you really to a very large extent, because I think Pan-Africanism and nationalism should be a feeling. And that's why I disagree with our approach as a country, that we can teach someone to love Uganda, that they can take you to Nali, put you in a boardroom, then show you, oh, Uganda has these legs, so please love Uganda. I think it's supposed to be an inherent feeling. how the traffic officers treat you, how if you go to a hospital, how do you feel about it? I think it should be an inherent feeling that is, inculcated in you just by virtue of your experiences in the country. So some of these things cannot be taught exactly, but I think you make fantastic points. Philip, I don't know, what is the ultimate goal of groups and entities like al-Shabab, al-Qaeda? Because I don't know if someone can set out and their ultimate goal is just to cause violence and kill people. I don't know what kind of orientation that is, that for your goal is just to kill people and to cause violence. Because people fight protracted wars because they want to achieve maybe a political goal in mind. I don't know. Do these guys have a political goal? Is it a social goal? Is it a religious goal? What do they want to achieve? I fail to understand.
That is a very beautiful question. Actually, if our leaders had questioned that or had that question in mind, maybe they would be more prepared than they are, because you cannot go to keep peace where people don't want peace. The question is that what does al-Shabab need, or what does it want, or what do they fight for? If they are fighting for power and they believe that death is nothing to them, and for you, you go to create peace, to bring peace, really, do you say that you really know the reason as to why they are fighting? And you think that you can sustain and probably reach to the conclusion of your mission? I say no. Well, just like we've also had struggles for power, and I say that was our phase, and now it's their turn. I say unless they accumulate or get to their goal, they shall not cease. I mean, they shall not cease fire. So we shall continue losing in their battlefield as if this is our battle. Maybe one point I would not, love you to drive me off is about the professionalism. And the question is, how can our camp be ambushed and we lose such a big number? The question is, aren't we soldiers? Aren't we professionals? Just like the Museveni said, that he doubts the professionalism of these people. It brings me back to some days back where we've had the scandals in the army and the police and the security, where they have been complaining of the pay, and so on. I tell you, the issue of professionalism, we are yet to hear it being now a family issue. About the incident that happened in Somalia. We are going to see that a family has lost over 5 children. Very soon, you shall see that the people that are in Somalia are from maybe a different ethnicity or a different tribe or group of people, and in one day they shall have to bury over 10 people, okay? And then the certain other people shall have nothing to do with the burials. So the question is, what is the criteria when they are recruiting people? Well, my brother said, I don't know whether I didn't quote you well about the law. It's a legal perspective. I was about to quote the article, that is Article 209. It's okay. 208, that provides what the UPDF should be. Okay? It should be an army that is professional, disciplined, anti-partisan, and so on and so forth. The question is, do we reach that substantive criteria that should be followed as when they are recruiting? And if we do, then what is the mess? Where have we gone amiss that we are ambushed and we are really played on to that extent? We've lost, I don't know whether you people understand what has happened. We've lost 1, 2, 300 and over. Okay? We've lost, even one life counts. It would count less if this was our battle. The question is, are we there to fight? Why should al-Shabab come and ambush and probably bomb the people that are bringing peace? The question is, are we there on peace matters? You see, we've seen our army in Congo. We've seen allegations, and even in ISIS, we've been there in the International Court of, and we still have a punishment to serve. We were there to fight, is it M23? What are we fighting there now?
No, we went there to install Mobutu.
To install Mobutu.
Allegedly.
Well, whatever. We've gone now this side to make the government stay in power, right? Well, that is our game. The question is, what are we doing there? Don't you think this is now a signal to Ugandans, as the citizens, that maybe what the UPDF is doing there is not actually what we know? Because they can't also fight us without any reason. Do you think for them they are bloodthirsty? That they just want to kill Ugandans? No. What have we done there? So maybe we should come to that question, that maybe even when we go there to keep peace, just like we were in Congo and now we have allegations of timber and so on and gold, maybe we have messed up somewhere. Maybe the soldiers were asleep. We've had them complaining of the little pay and no pay, okay? Maybe they don't have now the energy to stay stake on their work. Yeah.
Fundamental questions. Lastly, Ivan, just the last question on this is that we hear, or perhaps it is at the verge of being proved, that Lieutenant General Muhanga, is it?
Yeah.
Muhanga Kayanja has been, I think, sent to Somalia to try and, sort of a fact-finding mission. Is that an indictment on the command that was there?
Well, when you have I think he's a commander, land forces.
Yes, he is.
I think that falls within his docket, because you have a war that is largely infantry. So I think that falls in his docket. Finding the facts is right, is okay, is fine. Like I've said, and I'll keep saying, you can find the facts but not the truth. Yeah, the facts can be at 5 a.m. someone slept on their guard point and was ambushed, and then shoot back and forth erupt. We receive that as news. Those are, we've received the facts already, but the truth never comes out. Now, I just wanted to make comments on what Comrade Lowell had said. Comments about making this Museveni's war. You see, if you read a book called Dictator's Handbook, you know, they say that states don't have interests. People do. People at the helm of states are the chief custodians of interests. And they will push forth their interests, no matter the cost implication on the countries. So you're looking at somebody that has branded himself as the strongman of East Africa. He has projected his military might to countries even far-flung from Uganda itself. If you're to go to, when these people in Sudan had a problem and had a transition military council, I think Abdel Fattah al-Burhan paid Muzey a visit. When you had the Tigrayan forces against the government of Ahmed Abiy, I think Ahmed was here twice.
Yes.
During the secession of South Sudan from the main Sudan, I think you had Museveni on the side of SPLM, and then the Khartoum group on the other. So this is a man that has, if you go to Central African Republic, you'll find UPDF soldiers. So this is a man that has projected his military might. And I think in his heart of hearts, hopes, he's a Muyekera, a rebel. And people with a rebel sort of thinking are always looking for areas he's a pacifier, areas to pacify where there is trouble. And if you put all that against a backdrop...
Would that be a bad thing, to want to pacify and cause peace?
Good. And if you put that against a backdrop of Pan-African ideals, then it works very well for him. Now, as I conclude, whether the president has the constitutional
The locus.
He called it locus standard, something like that, to deploy a national army in a foreign territory without having gotten permission from parliament. I think constitutions without swords are nothing but mere paper. The holders of swords at any point in time determine whether how many times did you have a constitution here? You had an independence constitution. Then Amin comes in, suspends it.
Pigeonhole in between.
Pigeonhole, helped by Rina Isa. Then so even when Museveni came, giving all these legal notices, till we had the CA to have a constitution drafted and promulgated. So the constitution and whether it is implemented to the dot, it usually depends on holders of the swords.
The spirit of constitutionalism. Ndugu, Lawel, your last words. Okay, I will begin with you.
Yeah, before you go
your
ahead.
last words on the UPDF
Okay.
in Somalia. Yeah.
Before you go ahead, I want to disagree maybe with someone's two colleagues have said about the UPDF questioning why they are still there. It is really, I know sometimes you can question the availability of UPDF in another country, but we should look at this in a broader aspect, that if UPDF are not that side, if we don't deploy intelligence in another country,
then we are not in charge.
it is not easy to defend. Uganda is in the middle of 3 countries that are in war. 3. And if you don't deploy intelligence there in terms of your forces, it will be very hard to defend the country when you're in it, because when enemies enter your territory, it's hard to defend them inside.
Yeah.
How can you take the intelligence out? How can you go and engage them from where they are? How can you go and counterattack their intelligence so that we protect our country? The ADF bombed here, Uganda. When UPDF went to Congo, you've not had, apart from the border issues. When the bombing happened in Uganda, here, a twin bombing, we're in Somalia. But from then, we have not had. We have threats, but those threats are counterattacked. Why? Because of the intelligence we have in foreign countries. The intelligence we have in foreign countries. Because otherwise, if we are not in South Sudan, trust me, South Sudanese are more dangerous people. You will never know. You'll never know which one is a rebel, which one is a real one. When they all come, they come with those military cars and they come. It's very hard. So it's really very important for us to put the army to be in those countries that have the threat on Uganda, so that we can counteract and protect our people.
Yeah.
Okay.
Fantastic. So your last words, Lawel, on this topic.
I think enough has been really said. I think what's most important is that if it should be every global citizen concerned to make sure that terrorism does not flourish. Because again, for me, it's not like their war is based on the need to improve quality of life of every citizen. For me, it's a selfish, ideological, motivated thing. I'm quite a liberal person. I believe that every individual should have the opportunity to enjoy the one life they have on earth. And for me, to the extent that that is threatened, then I would support anyone who is doing whatever they are doing in whatever capacity to deal with terrorism. I think it's unfortunate that we have had to lose lives. That's part of the price we pay, and I'm sure our dear soldiers understand that, and that's what keeps us peaceful, that there are those who are willing to risk and sacrifice, and it's really bad that we have lost them. Again, my call is, I think government need to do better. I think we need to have a say on what is our army are supposed to be our army pursues and does. That's my only concern, but otherwise I think the cause is justified.
Yeah, fair enough. Yes, Philip, your last words.
it's with the grief that we have to remember all our brothers and probably sisters that have lost life in a, I call it even a friendly battle, because this is not a battle that was launched against us. Maybe I don't feel we have any capacities that we should even make comments over this issue, apart from one requirement that we are Ugandans, and we feel the sorrow for our brothers and sisters, the military, the UPDF, that protect our state, our sovereignty, and our territorial boundaries, and so advocating for peace. However, this should be a caution to each one of us, all Ugandans, to wake up. Let this be our thing. You know, we can't let it be a one-man's decision. We can't let it, leave it for Museveni's, because it's not Museveni's people dying. It's our people. We've lost brothers, we've lost sisters, we've lost a lot of money, okay? The classified budget every year, over billions of money, and we are losing on it. So I think, and I still say, if I was the commander at this very point, I would call off my soldiers to either come back home or to retreat, because we've had more than enough. To the dismay is that even after the ambush, we again sent over 300 soldiers. I don't know now to do what. And we don't know whether they are to come back alive or we are to lose them. So I think it's a call, a wake-up call to ask the citizens to now intervene and probably manage all our sectors, including the UPDF.
Fantastic. Well, we have to shift gears a bit for the next 20 minutes or so, and to discuss what is now making headlines in the country, which is that the president has, signed officially the 2023 Honorable Asuman Basalirwa bill
What's
into
the
law.
position of NYC?
So the bill has been signed into law, and it's only waiting gazetting as its final procedure for it to become
We should start with the
law. So, Nugulawel, the geopolitics of this particular bill. We have already seen comments coming in from, the US president and things like that. So, the geopolitics of us passing this particular law.
Yes, I am very excited. What we are dealing with. I don't like Museveni's kind of administration, and that's why I don't support the NRM.
You really
But
emphasize
if there is
that,
one,
right?
yes, but if there is one thing that he either postures or has tried to demonstrate, is the idea of Pan-Africanism. And in my everyday, I am always uncomfortable with the idea that Africa has to choose whether to be pro-China or pro-US. I'm always asking myself, when are we going to be ourselves and we are discussing Africa at that in a global sense? And I understand that for us to reach there, we must sacrifice, we must go through difficult times to rebuild, right? For us to be able to build a self-sustaining and independent African continent that can then negotiate with all the other superpowers or other entities, right? And for me, what this does is present that opportunity. And I know for sure that, like I've said with sacrifice, that most of this comes with a lot of pain and sacrifice, because you're going to be hit if you take an independent stand like we have taken. You get my point? I think that since last year or the other year, Museveni has been, talking strongly about the need for an African seat in the UN Security Council, having a permanent member there. He has been talking, largely that rhetoric, he has been talking strong against, I think it was when he was swearing in the other time when he condemned these foreign missions and how they impose themselves on us. And for me, this presents an opportunity for him to convince I don't know anyone else, but at least for me, that he means what he says when he talks about Pan-Africanism and his desire. And he talked about apartheid training people here and what has been happening. I don't know if now he can hold, because the truth is that we're going to be hard hit. More than 40% of both our health sector and education sector are foreign funded. We are supposed, I think, to start paying Congo the reparations. We are supposed there's an IMF loan coming up that we need to pay. We are here, people talking about taxing cows and all that because the budget is so bad. There is a lot we have to take in. The question is, are we prepared to take that African stand? I don't think there's any other person who is better positioned to handle the situation than Museveni. He seems to be the strong person in Africa and in the region. And so for me, it's interesting how this plays out, but also it's timely. We've just lost our brothers in Somalia in a mission that is largely Western, because most of this funding, it's a Western, initiative. We've just, and there's been this rhetoric of how Museveni is the anchorman of the US and Western interests here, especially in a military sense. And then now, when we take this stand, then the US and Biden is taking away this aid. There's this discussion on how that plays out, because then you also have bigger discussions between the US and its coalitions versus BRICS and the war in Ukraine. So we are sort of also up for grabs. So my question is, how are all of these things going to be answered? So as you can see, for me, my issue is not largely on whether homosexuality is good or bad for people. It is we have found ourselves in this situation, and how are we going to answer the questions? I don't care what courts decide. I know for sure that if Museveni wants to take the African stand, the courts won't cancel it. If he was joking, the courts are going to cancel it. For me, the judiciary is what is going to tell me what Museveni's position is.
It's litmus test.
Yeah.
Wow, fantastic. Yes. Gadi.
Yeah, I want first to give a win for our president. It's a win. I'm very, very happy. So when I saw the news that he had signed the bill, I was very happy that, sure, we can stand against all those superpowers that are coming in, and we can make our stand. That shows that the independence that we have is working. Now, the next question comes in. How are we going to handle all this pressure that is coming from the Western world? There's a lot of pressure. You saw Trump. Trump has already made his, not Trump, Biden. Biden has made his statement, ready his address, and everything against Uganda about this bill here. And he has sent, I think, investigative group to come and investigate about this bill, and a lot of things that are coming in. But how is Uganda prepared to all this? Can we handle the pressure that is coming out from out? Are we going to manage the cutting of the funds? Because I know most of the NGOs are going to step out. Most CSOs that are funded by the West are going to step out. Are we going to handle it? Are we going to manage? That's the question that we should handle. And if you realize in the Western world,
if we became frugal with our budgeting, if we limited certain expenditures, if we began to look at where we are putting the money, then I think there would not be so much need for alarm as to whether our donor funding is going to be cut or not, because already, even with the small that we have, we are misusing it.
Our expenditure is good, but the problem is people who corrupt. Money is put into good. They put money. Yeah, there is money there in health, but does it serve the purpose? We budget for money, but where does the money go? That is the problem.
Exactly.
Where do these ministers? So that's why last time when we were discussing from here about the Mamati saga, why it has kept quiet a little bit. People have gone to court. A few people have gone to court. They are pick people, but they are still operating in their offices up to now. Why are they operating in those offices, yet they are having a court case of which they stole the Mabati? You understand? So unless you put
allegedly,
there's no allegedly that they have stolen the Mabati. They were still, because if you say allegedly, if the speaker can bring back the Mabati, that means she took. You don't bring back what you did not take. Huh?
True.
It is just accepting that I stole. You don't.
It's an admission of guilt.
Yeah, admission that I picked the Mabati. Whatever it is, whether they called you or what, provided it was a thief's Mabati, they say, show me your friends and I'll tell you who you are. So if you stole, you stole. So the president really should try to handle the issue of corruption so vigorously. The NRM, when they were coming into power, that was the first thing, is to fight corruption.
On the 10 points program.
Now the sun is coming. That is one thing is bringing forward, is to fight corruption.
The sun.
Yeah. Don't you know the Mwozi project that is coming in? So
let us.
No, the sun is coming, and you cannot avoid that fact. Yeah, it's coming. It's going to be to contest. Maybe not this term or next term, but you definitely know he's going to contest. At one point, he's going to contest, whether he wins or not. But his agenda is to fight corruption. And I think every political party, the first agenda is to fight corruption. And if you fight corruption, and when you fight corruption, that means the resources will reach the final consumer. And at least the well-being of people is going to improve. Now, the signing of this bill, it is good for the BRICS countries. It is bad for the Western countries. If you realize that people supporting Uganda for signing is at the BRICS, then the Western, the US, UK, those ones, they're having issues with Uganda signing the bill. So it is not just a fight. It's not just a fight that is happening in Uganda. It is a fight between the two parts, the Western world and the BRICS. So you realize that Africa is going to a different direction. They are tending towards the BRICS now. Why? Because the loans of the BRICS are so good. They come and they develop you. They build for you what you need. You have it, they take charge of it. Then later on, after they have got their money, they leave you with the infrastructure. But these ones which have in conditions, if you don't sign this, I am going to take away this. If you sign this, I am going to take away the health. But it's time for Uganda really to stand strong and fight this battle. It is not an easy one. A lot of things are going to come. Just a day after signing it, we have had a lot of things, but it is just us to stand strong as Uganda. And we should really back up our government. We should back up our government, and at least, they should also see that the citizens are on their side. Yeah.
Fantastic. Fair enough. Ivan, I think this is one legislation that has had consensus from across the aisle. I mean, from across the tables. There's been consensus on this matter that, we must preserve our culture. Well, a group of lawyers led by Professor Sylvia Tamale have, ever since yesterday, challenged this particular law. I don't know. How different do you see this particular petition unfolding from the 2009 Professor Oloko Nyango, petition? Because the former was annulled on the basis of procedure. Quorum, yes. Quorum, which is in fact a procedure issue. So, I don't know. Does court have any loop, any scapegoat this time round to strike it out?
Overhold the position of parliament.
Thank you very much, Moses.
I know I'm asking a question to a non-lawyer.
Yeah, but he knows the mandate.
No, he knows the mandate.
You're sending me to walk on eggshells. But because
try.
And it's very important for him.
Issues of sex, sexuality, sexual orientation are very emotive issues. Very, very emotive. But let me give it a good try. Now, he has talked. I think let me begin with what you are saying. Look, the globe, as we know it, is a constant collision course of hegemony. You see that on one side you'll have the Western hegemony, of course, led by US, Uncle Sam and colleagues, and then you'll have the Eastern hegemony all fighting for space. And Africa seems to be the virgin
Up for grabs.
up for grabs girl in the village. You know that village berry in The Lion and the Jewel? Up for grabs for every suitor.
The biggest cow.
So Africa seems to be in the middle there.
Haifa.
Now, see, the old man has said it, and I'll reiterate it here, that look, you have a group in the world that wants to rule over the rest on land, on water, in air, in space. But that seems not to be enough for them. They even want to come and rule you in your values, your culture. You get it? They want to define your interpretation of sex.
Agenda setting.
Yes, and gender. That it's not a gender should not be a construct of biology, but rather a social construct. Should be is how I feel, what I want to identify with. You get it? So these are just simple hegemonies. Now, why is it that, and I don't think it is posturing this time round, where I think, I think it's an actual demonstration and not a posture that Museveni is taking, is because there's a tug of war between the two hegemonies on each side of the aisle. And he seems he's now comfortable to go wherever he wants.
Just one comment. Since you're evaluating the psychobiography of our president, is it surprising that this particular bill is signed a day after the president made comments accusing the USA for not being in support of the UPDF in Somalia? Because in fact, if you observe the way he spoke about the Somalia issue, he accused the USA for reluctantly not being able to extend a supporting hand to the UPDF in Somalia. So do you think there is it could also be a reaction?
I think they all have geopolitical.
Well,
Yeah,
I can
may not
neither
be the same.
confirm nor reject.
Could it be also a reaction?
Let me be good at PR. I can neither confirm nor refute.
You're all right.
But surely I don't mind the color of the cat as long as it kills the rat. You see, all these are just bargaining chips on a table for a certain old man to get what he wants.
Sure.
And he has mastered his art so well. So back to the point that look. So there has been a global realignment of forces. This is why Museveni now feels comfortable with signing a bill that will bring so much backlash from the West, because he knows he can have the East. I think he hosted the Secretary of State of Russia.
Yes.
Here at the time when the Ukraine war was at its peak.
Truly.
And he has always claimed that he won't play politics of Mparanirako, that help me hate somebody. Help me hate somebody. He has refuted that and publicly. So there's a global realignment of forces. And you see, African, we've not built that conscious, we've not built such consciousness to realize that we are in it, and we are the ground, we are the virgin ground that all these powers. You've heard of BRICS. Apparently, South Africa has also joined the big boys, the Russia and Britain and India and Canada.
Has been.
You heard of something called ASEAN, Association of Southeast Nations. They recently had a conference in Indonesia. And all this to talking about how, one, to increase intra-trade amongst them, but also increase trade outside them. And Africa, here, you have resources. You're poorly mismanaged, or you're poorly managed by leaders that are there to meet selfish ends. So they're going to come for you. They're going to come for you. But lastly, as I conclude, I think you realize that the elite, we the educated, had left politics to hooligans. We had left business to the uneducated and had run to NGOs.
Yes.
So it's a good thing that NGOs are now putting out funding. Let's have the elite revert back to the area 2. Let us have them come back to politics, have them come back to business and thrive. Yes. Otherwise, look, this thing of sexual orientation. So for me, I think it is idle talk. It is in these African countries of ours where you have people talk about what sexual orientation one belongs to. It's very idle talk. You see, what concern do you have with what somebody does in the comfort of their bedroom? Okay, but if I'm here and I'm telling you very different things, behind the comfort of my bedroom, I'm doing different other things, how will you tell? So you pass an act like this, surely it's like another Computer Misuse Act. You'll never secure a conviction. I doubt whether a conviction can ever be secured. Because you see, you do not moralize, you analyze. So, thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Philip, I think I will focus the legal question to you now. Is that, the petition, do you anticipate in your own words or in your own understanding that it could fall on its merits or demerits? Because the people who are petitioning, I don't know why they haven't challenged Section 145 of the Penal Code Act. So my concerns are around, will court find merits either in the procedural matter or in the law being unconstitutional? I don't know. Which way do you think the Constitutional Court will take?
Well, thank you. Discussing a matter of morality is a sensitive area. It doesn't call for religion, whether Muslim or Christian, and it doesn't call for whether you're an African or ethnicity, the difference, and so on. It just calls for integrity. This is morality. Whether you're a lawyer, a doctor, you're a carpenter, or what, we just call to play that integral part of intellectual reasoning and see, is it to the benefit or it's just to the dismay? I love the African race because I say we are the wisest race. Even when the whites came to sell us the idea of religion, the Africans refused. We resisted. Not until we knew that surely it was religion and it was helpful. And now even when they turn against it and they bring in different ideas of homosexuality, I had last time the whites want to bring about, to cancel out the he in the Bible and bring a he or a she because they don't have affirmation that God is a he. Okay? Still Africans shall have to resist that because not until we reason it that it is truly a carrying sense, we cannot accept. Now, the idea or the constitutionality of the bill, you see, many people can applaud the
What
general.
is the legal maxim for not discussing an issue that is before courts of law? Is it res judicata? The matter is sub judice. Exactly. So
no, we can discuss it.
That's if you are you are a party.
I was making a point that many can applaud the general, that is Museveni, of course the president of Uganda, for assenting to that bill. But I won't applaud him because that is what is expected of him. As an elder, if he has sense, then he had to do that. Okay? Maybe
so you agree that it was right for him to do that?
Yeah.
Every intellectual reasoning person has to assent to that. Okay. So there is nothing like applauding him. Maybe we can give credit to the MPs because they are sitting in different, antagonistic grounds, and then they have to come to a conclusion that no, this is right and this is wrong.
Do you think court might be invited to examine the emotional status that the MPs were in as they discussed and debated?
The legal thing here is that unlike last time when there was the idea of quorum, because you remember the whole Amama and all that, it was ruled out on technicalities. A few individuals, the locals who are so passionate about this, said it robbed them of the opportunity to deal with the issue on the substance, right? And I think what this does is present a unique opportunity for this to be resolved on its merits. And I think Parliament was very deliberate, and they kept saying it from the start of the discussion that this time round, yes, everything is going to. So it's great. I think it's going to be judged on the merits. However, look, there's nothing that is going to be argued in court that has not been discussed as in public on this debate. Because what is argued largely is Chapter 4, the rights, Bill of Rights, right? Right to liberty, the right to life, and all these things because of the sentences in the Act. The issue, it's still it gives the judges a lot of discretion. And that's why for me, I think it's Museveni's call. Because I don't think it is, the problem is it's subject to what the judges are going to decide, which is a gray area. They can, it's about this right, to what extent does this right appear when there is this general consensus in the population. This is the population, that's what their representatives want. To what extent can we uphold this particular clause in the Constitution? And that gives the judges a lot of discretion to decide. And if there is any influence, it means it can swing either side. You get my point? So for me, it's going to even be, it's political. It's going to be a political call.
It is a political case. So as you give us your, okay, can you use 30 seconds to give us your last words on the show? Then I'll move towards that.
All right, thank you. Maybe what I love to say about this, about homosexuality is that homosexuality is already in Uganda. Okay, believe it or not, it's already in Uganda. However, it's upon us now who know its demerits to now eradicate it and educate the nation. However, it's been a great opportunity, and it's now a question to our leaders. Of course, my president sang song, Tulia Oltalonga Luwede Tulia Mbalengule. We are already in war, and whatever happens, we are in war. But some time to come, we shall overcome all this.
Shall we wear the crown? Yes.
Yes. Very powerful conclusion. Now, on my side, you see, and I usually joke with friends that look.
30 seconds.
30 seconds. 30 seconds. Yes, 30 seconds. I usually joke with friends that look. At what age did your grandfather give birth to his first kid or kids? Probably 16 or 18. So for you, you're hitting 26, 27. You're not even thought of giving birth to one.
Yes,
why?
Moses.
The economy. Look. This group that I've told you, as I conclude, the one that wants to control over you, thinks you're too many, wants to depopulate you. They try to make the economy as hard as possible to ensure they depopulate you. But with Africans, when the guy is poor, then the guy produces necessary school of children. They actually produce more. So I think that whether or not it is gazetted now that it has been passed, so it should not be an issue of discussion. We have more pressing concerns in this country to deal with. Unemployment, the poverty, rife poverty, sexuality, surely what someone does when they're with another person who's an adult and consenting, to me, it never crosses my mind. Thank you.
Yeah, that is Ivan. Yes, Commissioner.
Okay, thank you. I think I will not make a conclusion on the issue, the signing of the bill, but I want to applaud the president. Why? Because unlike the normal relationships that we go for, female, male, this other gaze is in terms of recruitment. So that makes it really something that is, it's just like recruiting people in terrorism. So it's not nice. So you don't come and start recruiting kids into an act. A human being is born to believe that, yeah, surely I am a man. Why do I have to come and start identifying? We nowadays identify as, I wake up in the morning and God is here saying, oh, today I'm a woman. Really? No. Yeah, so I really want to thank the president that we should act, even if it is really what, we should respect our culture and respect God in this matter. And of course, I also want to send my condolences to the soldiers that we lost in Somalia. And the fight will continue to see that we get peace in the Horn of Africa. Thank you.
Fantastic. Love.
For me, conclusively, for me, just it's like a movie. I want to sit behind and watch how all this unfolds. I don't know how far the West is willing to go, and I also want to know how far our president and his allies are willing to go. The legal questions, I think it's again his call. If this bill stays, for me, it speaks to what who Museveni is, what he talks about, but also what Africa is. For me, it's a very definitive time. I just want to sit back and watch how it goes. Of course, everything has implications. For our prior topic on Somalia, again, I want to condole with those who lost their dear ones. Uganda is very eventful. It's very eventful. We talked about expired courses. For the same week, we lost our people. We now have, we don't know what next. Every day there's a headline. I don't know what kind of generation we are going to become.
It's our state.
Yeah, we are so much,
There's
bombarded with a lot to deal
so
with.
much
But whatever it
information.
is, I hope that we, as a young people, can salvage the situation and come up with a better country. Like we are talking about war, peace is a result. Even constitutionalism is always at the backdrop of events and all that. I'm sure that this generation will be able to salvage the situation and we can build the country we want.
Fantastic. And I think the words of Frantz Fanon, every generation has an abstract mission to discover and to eventually achieve it. Thank you very much. Thank you, Ndugulawel, Commissioner Gadi, our economist Ivan, and of course, Council Philip for making the time. Well, that brings us to the end of this particular conversation. From the Youth Roundtable, our heartfelt condolences to the families who lost their dear ones in Somalia, but also to Ugandans at large who, are grieving about this loss. But also at the same time, congratulate Ugandans upon, signing this particular bill into law. Well, the impacts and thereafter, we shall see how to deal with them. But for now, have a lovely afternoon. See you next week, same time, same place. Bye-bye.